Hey, what's up? On today's show, we're going to talk to a mom of a few kids who has a really challenging relationship with her ex-husband, and she wants to know what to do next. We're going to talk to a husband whose new wife has a history of drug abuse, and she is starting down a road of sneaking prescription medication. And we're also going to talk to a beautiful soul, a wonderful mother, whose son, dad, and younger brother all passed away a few years ago, and she wants to know some tools and some tactics on how to properly grieve her son. This is a good one. Stay tuned. Hey, good folks, what's up? It's Delony with the Dr. John Delony Show, a show where we take real calls from real people that I've never met. And we are connecting for the first time on this show to talk through whatever's going on in their life, whether it's relationship challenges, marriage issues, education questions, parenting challenge, whatever. We talk about all things, everything on this show. And here's the thing. It's not scripted. It's not pre-imagined. It is about your life. And here's the most important thing is that folks call me every day, call after call after call, and they feel like they are in this isolated bubble, that these things that they are thinking and experiencing and wondering about and trying to figure out are only happening to them. And the beauty of this show is that everybody listening, my mom and her 10 friends at the home, she's not in a home, that just sounds cool. They're the only ones listening, and my wife didn't even listen to the show. But those few folks that are listening get to realize we are not alone in this deal. I'm not crazy. I'm not losing my mind. I'm going through something that so many other people are going through. We're all in this together, and I love doing the show. I learn from this show. I learn from you good folks, and it's just an honor to walk alongside you. So whatever's going on in your life, relational IQ, parenting, addiction, marriage, somebody cheated on somebody, whatever it is, give me a call at 1-844-693-3291. That's 1-844-693-3291. Or go to johndelony.com/show. Fill out the form. It goes to Kelly and her crack squad of people. I don't think she has a squad. I think it's just her, but that sounded way cooler. And she puts the shows together and see if we can get you on the show. Before we go any further, it's important to note this. You know, we talk about all kinds of things on the show, and occasionally I talk about something that's driving me crazy. Can we not just admit the food situation in this country, 1,000 different ways to Sunday's a wreck, and we could talk about this for 50 shows in a row, but here's the big one. If I go to one more store, one more aisle in a store, I don't care what store it is, if it's bouged out like Whole Foods or if it's a gas station grocery store, and I go in to buy something particularly fruit or vegetable related, and let's say I'm going to get something with apples in it, and it's called apple something, and then there's a sticker on it and it says made with real apples, as though that's a selling feature, as they're like, whoa, this apple thing actually has apples in it. And we all go, whoo, I'm going to pay double for it. And the apples were from a real tree? No way. No way. Good folks, when the actual product that's being advertised is then further advertised as actually being in the product as a special feature, we've run aground. We're all psychotic. We're idiots, right? Let's start demanding more from our food labels. And we're going to talk about labels for the next 5 years because even the labels themselves are shenanigans and tomfoolery. But listen, made with real whatever is in it, especially if it's in the name, not a selling feature. Fruit juice, made with real fruit. No way. Vegetable juice, made with real vegetables. Woo! I call grandma on that one, good folks. That one's a big one. It's ridiculous. People don't, if it's not vegetable juice, you have to call it not vegetable juice or fake bullcrap in a jar. That's what you should call it, unless it's actually got the product in it. It's ridiculous. Okay, so I'm getting my blood pressure up, James. We haven't even started the show yet. I'm telling you, I saw that again on something we bought, and it's driving me crazy. All right, now I'm going to breathe. I'm going to control what I can control, said the pot to the kettle here. That was super lame. We're going to go to Carol in Dallas and start off there. Carol, what's going on? How are you?
Hi, Dr. Delony. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for your show. You've helped me a great deal recently.
You are. Hey, thank you for being kind and for saying nice things about me. That makes my heart feel good. Do you have anything in your pantry or your fridge that has a special label on it that has labeled the food for what's actually in it?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that my 9-month-old does. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Baby food's the worst. Okay, good for you. It's mashed sweet potatoes, and then there's going to be a sticker on it that says, contains real sweet potatoes. Oh, Carol.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, that's not even why you called me to talk about food. So how in the world can I help you?
Okay, my question is, when dealing with a very contentious ex-husband,
okay,
how can I best protect and respect my children who have very differing points of view about their dad and minimize the continuing emotional and verbal abuse towards me?
Ugh, gross. I hate that for you. All right, give me a little bit of data here. How many kids?
So we have 2 kids. One of them is going to be 14 on Saturday. She has autism, ADHD, and epilepsy. And my second one is going to be 18 in about 3 weeks. And she struggles with ADHD, depression, anxiety, and a dose of stupid.
That's one of the gifts of being 18. So it sounds like, as you rattle off those diagnoses, those kids have grown up in a somewhat chaotic, unconnected environment. Is that fair?
Yes. We were married for 15 years, and the marriage was filled with emotional, verbal, financial, and occasional physical abuse, mostly towards me, but also my 18-year-old received a dose of very bad verbal, emotional abuse from him.
Man, I hate that. And I know you said this, both girls, is that right?
Yes, they're both girls.
Both girls, okay. So they not only were direct recipients of it, but they lived inside of a vibrating cage where...
So the challenge is that my 14-year-old doesn't receive any of it. She is the perfect child that could do nothing wrong. And because she has multiple diagnoses, according to her father, she can do no wrong, and he doesn't want her disciplined. He doesn't want anything happening to her whatsoever, and he treats her like a princess.
So, Carol, make no mistake, she's definitely absorbing this. No question, no...
She is,
oh, yeah.
And not in a good way.
That's exactly right. Yeah, there's no question she's a part of this.
Recently, he and her had a discussion regarding... I guess she overheard my new husband and I talking about some of the physical abuse or something, and certainly it's not something I talk about to my kids, but she went to her dad to talk to him about why he did it, and he told her that it was all my fault and that I had started it all.
Okay. So
she's confused.
Of course she is. Yeah, she's 14. And here's the thing, a 14-year-old that's already wrestling with so many connection challenges, trying to put those puzzle pieces together and make sense of the math in her head. Because right now she's got a guy that she saw and experienced and felt and absorbed treat her mom one way for her entire childhood. And she has a guy who also is telling her that he loves her, will do anything, go to the ends of the earth for her. And while she thinks that feels good, while that makes sense in her head, her brain can't put that math together because the math doesn't work. And you are seeing that play out in all kinds of behavior disorders and connection issues and abilities to process and be still and on and on and on and on. So all of that is there. What's your question? How can I help in this situation? It's just messy.
So how do I deal with all the craziness that I'm getting from him? So if there's but with 18-year-old as well, I get up to 100 texts in a row. And I'm trying to navigate, I have one child that idolizes another child that hates dad and would be happy if he never came back again.
Sure.
And so then they're kind of arguing back and forth, well, dad's this, dad's that. And then I'm trying to do the right thing and respect both of them and both of their opinions. And I feel very caught in the middle, and I can't even cut off the craziness that I get from him.
So, a couple things here. Number one, you have a right and a responsibility to both yourself and demonstrating this for your girls, what boundaries look like, what firm, strong boundaries. And so someone is not going to send me 100 text messages in a row, especially if they are abusive or they are negative or accusing or in any way going to hurt or set my children up for failure. And so I'm going to have boundaries like, hey, we will communicate on this day between this time. Please don't send me 100 text messages ever again. Like, let me know what you need to let me know, and then we're going to move on from there. If it's more than 1 or 2 text messages, then you need to have a phone conversation or send me an email, but don't do that to my cell phone again. And you have a right and permission to draw those boundaries, and it's going to be healthy for them to see you do that. The second thing is your daughters this is their dad, and so what more important than what you're going to say about him is what you're going to model for them. And so if you model for them, as hard as it's going to be, that they're going to be respectful and not talk negative and now your 18-year-old's an adult. She's a grown-up. So at some point y'all need to go out and have that conversation. You're a grown-up young woman. You get to make your own decisions, and that you're going to support her in the ways that you can, especially if she's making healthy decisions and wise decisions. But your 14-year-old's 14. And the last thing you want to do is set yourself up to where you are talking bad about their dad, however hard that may be, unless it gets into their psychological and physical safety. At that point, then you don't go to them with those concerns. You go to the authorities. You go back to your original divorce decree, and you work through that system there. But you want to model what respect and dignity looks like, even when it's hard. And now you're playing a long game. You're not trying to win the affection of a 14-year-old. You're trying to model boundaries, strength, respect, dignity, a powerful, brilliant, strong woman, which is what you are. That's what you're modeling to your 14-year-old. You're not trying to make her like you right now. You're playing a 10-year, 5-year, 15-year game, and someday she will go, oh, my mom's incredible. And she put up with this. Mom, why didn't you ever say that? Why didn't you ever? And that's when you can be more demonstrative and open about those why you did what you did. Your 18-year-old, man, she's an adult. Why won't your 18-year-old cut off dad if he's being ugly to her and she doesn't want anything to do with him?
She does to some extent. She blocks him frequently. Unfortunately, I then get the text messages from him saying that I'm a horrible mother for letting her do that, and yada, yada, yada. So again, right there, you're going to tell him, hold on. That's when you're going to tell him, I will not receive messages from you that are disparaging to me. We're done with that. Okay.
And feel free to hold your boundary. And when he does, then just respond back and say, I'm blocking you till tomorrow because I've asked you to speak with me with respect, and you're not upholding that. And so we're done talking for the day. And then we'll talk the next day. And if it continues, if it escalates, that's when you call your lawyer back. But your 18-year-old is a grown-up. She's an adult, right? Is she still receiving money from him, like for school or for clothes or phone or anything like that?
She periodically goes to him and asks him for money, but for the most part, what usually happens in that situation is he'll say that he's going to do it, and then he'll either send it to her and then demand it back for one reason or another, or say that she's disrespected him. Like for Christmas, he was supposed to give her a gift, and he said then that she had disrespected him, so he was only going to get the one child a gift and not the other.
Wow. Okay. So I think this is a wonderful, extraordinary learning opportunity, a moment for a mom who's been through it to sit down with her daughter and talk about when you accept money, when you accept gifts, when you accept fill in the blank, you are then, when you are going to call, then you are opening yourself up to all sorts of other A, B, C, and D's, right? And I think it's an important thing you can teach her about boundaries. Even if you lead with being vulnerable and letting her know you haven't always been great at setting boundaries. You've had a hard time because you loved this guy. Y'all had 2 kids together. There was some good stuff. There was some really rough stuff. Life is hard, and you were still learning how to set boundaries, and you're going to start practicing this stuff. And if she wants to not be around someone that's going to be manipulative and gaslighting and display these just heartbreaking behaviors when dads manipulate their kids like that, it just breaks my heart. I think be open with your adult daughter and let her know every time you call back, every time you block them and say, I'm done with this nonsense, but then you call them back in a few weeks and ask for $40 for the cell phone bill, you are just inviting all this thing back over again. And that's when you can teach her about dignity, working her butt off, setting herself up financially to be successful, all those things in a row, right? That's when you can really, really begin to make a difference in their life. But what I'm going to ask you to do is don't take the low road and badmouth dad. Don't take unless it's a safety issue, don't take the low road. Don't badmouth dad. Don't run him under the ground to lift yourself up, to try to make your daughters feel better. Your 18-year-old's an adult now, as young as I know she probably feels to you, and your 14-year-old is going to watch everything you do. So model the high road, protect those kids, be honest when you have to, and be vulnerable and demonstrate boundaries. And now you're talking about systemic change, so these young girls don't end up in hard situations in the future, and they learn how to walk on firm footing, on a firm sidewalk. And man, that's legacy changing stuff there. So thank you so much for the call. Let's go to Jordan in Raleigh, North Carolina. Jordan, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Dr. D? How you doing?
I'm all right, brother. How we doing?
Doing okay. Hey, I wrote my question down, so if I sound like a robot, it's because I'm reading it.
Hey, I don't write anything down, and I sound like a robot, so, dude, it's all good, man. How can I help?
Cool, man. So, hey, I married my wife about a year ago. She is a full-time paramedic and is in PA school. Over the past few months, she's been taking unprescribed Xanax on and off.
Where's she getting it from?
What makes this... The first time I had some, I get like crazy anxiety from flying. So I have taken Xanax 3 times in my life for the past 3 flights I've been on. I had a couple in a sock drawer, basically. That was the first time she took them. And then the times after that, she's been, she found a drug dealer and has been going to him.
Okay.
So what makes it a little bit, what's that?
Go ahead, man. I'll get on you later. Well, go ahead. I don't want to keep interrupting.
You're good. Yeah, you're good. What makes this a little more scary is that she struggled with heroin addiction in the past. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is, how do I continue to love and support her at the same time, not start to build up resentment, and are boundaries an option?
So the first thing is to stop giving your former heroin addict wife drugs. That's number one.
I did not give them to her whatsoever.
Did she steal them from you?
Yeah, she took them from me. She did. They were not given to her. I would never in a million years do that, ever. I'm sorry if that's what it sounded like. So, I did not give them to her. So
when did she... How did that conversation go when you found out she had stolen your prescription medication?
So I didn't know because I pull them out when I go on flights, and I don't fly very often. So I never would have known. Honestly, I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So she told me the very next day she took them. There were 3 in there, and she took all 3. We woke up the next morning, and first thing in the morning, she said, "Hey, there's something I got to tell you. Your Xanax, I took them, and I took them all, and, she apologized and everything." Okay. So that was the first, yeah. So is she now getting these prescribed to her by a doctor? No, she's finding them. She's calling a drug dealer and meeting with them to get them. Yeah. So I was gonna be like, I have a psychiatric. I have a part of my will, which is a psychiatric power of attorney.
meaning if I ever disassociate and I have to be institutionalized, what do I want them to do to me while I'm there? What do I not want them to do while I'm there? And the addictive properties of Xanax and other benzodiazepines is so bad. I have in my psychiatric power of attorney that if I'm institutionalized, they are not allowed to give me that drug.
Wow.
That's how much I hate that drug.
Yeah.
And it should never be given as a one-off, right? As a tic-tac, as a feel-good, right?
Yeah.
And so I got a problem with whatever doctor gave them to you that way, right? And the second is, if you've got an active addict in the home, having prescription medications that's not wise. The second thing is, she is a paramedic, dude. Other people's lives count on her being fully present and not high. And so this is a marriage issue, obviously, 1 year in. This is an addiction issue 1 year in. And this is also a professional ethics issue. She's going to kill somebody, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Now, I do know for a fact she's not taking these on the job.
Hey, listen, brother. Listen. I know, but you know too. Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the business of running your wife down. Okay. I'm trying to get you to realize how serious this is. Okay.
Right.
And I know you know that it's serious, but so at the end of the day, if your wife has a heroin addiction in her past and she is back to, I'm as concerned about the actual narcotic as I am about the behavior. The sneaking, the off script, the lying, the then circling back, and I'm sorry it won't happen again, and then I'm going to a dealer now. All the while I'm in a really, really high stress, emotionally high strung job, and by the way, I'm going to go ahead and get a graduate degree too on top of that. I know that's probably why you called, but brother, that is a recipe for a train wreck, right?
Right. Yeah.
So when you sit down and have this hard conversation with her, how does it go? What does she say?
Well, we didn't have the hard conversation up until a couple days ago.
Okay.
Because after this has happened on and off for about 3 months, and in between those 3 months, it's only happened about where she has come to me to tell me that she's taken a Xanax. It's only happened just a handful of times.
So I would guarantee you take that number and double it, right?
Yeah,
if not triple it.
You're right. But the way we handle it from there is first off, thank you for telling me. I know you're going through a lot. Like what's kind of leading to this? Where are you at mentally? Or emotionally when you take one, and can we find ways to fill that hole another way? She likes to. She likes fitness and she likes to journal and read, so just trying to find, ways to cope other than, Xanax, because I know her job is ridiculous.
Right.
So this last time we had a fight, and it kind of was me getting to a point of like, okay, I've said sorry, I've gotten over it and pressed on, and now in a selfish way, I guess, now I want some answers. I
think that's fair. I think that's super fair.
Yeah. Basically the conversation was, let's basically what show me what you're doing, tell me what you're doing, to fill this hole. Let's come up with I guess it doesn't sound any different than it's always been, but
right, exactly. And hey, here's what's going to happen.
Then I called you.
Man, I'm grateful for you, and I know that you are trying to love your wife the best way you know how. Okay, so I'm not drinking the haterade on that one at all. I know you're trying to love her the best you can. What's going to end up happening is that constricting pressure, those old demons that are coming out, that surfaced with whatever trauma led to the heroin addiction, right? And the things that happened before that. And I bet you and I could talk for a long time about her heroin history, right? And her pre-heroin history,
yes,
right? Am I fair? Am I right on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So she comes here, whatever stressors are going on in her life, and those demons start calling. the tendency that you're going to have is compassion first, like, right? Just like, hey, what's going on? How can we help? Hey, there's just some other things we can do. And really quick, you are going to get lumped into the box of stressors. You are going to become part of the problem because you're going to be something that she has to work around because you are holding her accountable. You want to see these behaviors. You want to see these things change, the same as the paramedic job, the same as the grad school homework, and a partridge in a pear tree. And pretty soon she's already practicing deceiving you, right? And pretty soon that's just going to, if it's not already, that's just going to be common. That's just going to be a routine in your home. And so I don't want to sound any alarms unnecessarily, but this relationship's on real shaky ground, and I'm worried about the health and heart of your wife. Okay, is she working with a professional at all, with a counselor? How did she kick her heroin habit?
Rehab.
Okay,
and then she did some NA. She's done that a couple times. She's been to rehab a couple times in the past, and. She kicked heroin before we met, was sober for a long time, then left the program and just would do a glass of wine every other day or something, maybe. It kind of empowered her in a way that she was like, wow, I used to not be able to even finish up. Like, I used to finish
I'm healed, right? Yeah, I'm all good now. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then it's just kind of led to where we are now. So, but to answer your question, she does have a therapist. She meets over Zoom with maybe once a month.
So here's your next move, and I'm telling you this is what I would do if I was in the same situation with the woman I love, the woman that I really want to be well, and I see her on a path to destruction, right? I would tell her that I would do this while I'm holding her hands, right? So she feels you. I would let her know that you are real, you're terrified. That's the best word I can tell you, that you're terrified and you're scared for her and about her, and she's going to try to make you feel better. She's going to go into paramedic mode. She's good at that. That's what she does. She goes into people's hardest moments and brings the noise level down and helps them there. And then I want you to ask her for permission to join her in her next session, her next counseling session, because you are worried about the Xanax and the sneaky behavior and the hiding behavior. And here's what you can do in a beautiful, vulnerable way that is also truthful and honoring to her. You can tell her that you are struggling with hearing her stories as true, that you are having concerns and doubts and fears. So you're not going to call her a liar, but you're going to let her know, hey, I'm starting to struggle with these doubts, and we're a year in. I don't want our relationship to get any more cracks in the foundation than it needs to. I want to join you with your counselor. I want to let your counselor know what's going on. I want us to be on the same page together. I'm not helping you by giving you a bunch of new rules and a bunch of new behaviors that you've got to start showing me. I'm not helping, but I don't have the tools to do this on my own. I want to join you. And that's when you are going to ask, if she lets you do this, then you're going to talk openly and candidly with the counselor. And the counselor is going to give you some very real and direct strategies and tools. And if the counselor doesn't and says something dumb like, well, what do you think? Then I want you to find another counselor or find a marriage counselor on Zoom, and then you both are going to go do that. You're going to be vulnerable here on two different counts. Number one, you're going to ask her for something that you need, and she might tell you no. And if she says, you cannot join my counseling session, I refuse, then every alarm bell you have should go off about the status and safety of your relationship. And the second thing is, man, she's been through the ringer before, and she understands the trajectory she's on cognitively. It's just that spiritual part, that addiction demon, man, is mean, right? Yeah. Gnarly. And hopefully your counselor, y'all's counselor, her counselor, will walk you through a series of really hard boundaries that you're going to hold hard, and is going to give you some tools on how to hold your wife with a lot of grace. Okay? So I don't want to, again, be an alarmist. Your situation is real rough right now, brother. And your wife's situation is rough and scary. and she's headed not in a good direction. And again, if you're listening to this and you're like, dude, she took 3 Xanax, chill out. She got like 10 Xanax from some dude at work. What is your problem? When you have a history of addiction, when you are in a helping profession on top of a graduate school, a challenging graduate school program at that, man, those demons come calling. And it starts with 1, and it starts with 2 and 3, and then it starts with I'm just going to steal these from my husband, and I'll tell him about it later and see how I'm going to test the water there. Oh, he was kind of cool. He forgave me. Cool. I'm going to have another one. I'm going to tell him about this one, but I'm only going to tell him about every 5th one. And now we're setting up new rhythms to our day. We are lying as a regular part of life. And the stress never gets dealt with. The pain never gets dealt with. The connection starts to fracture and fissure with the dishonesty. And suddenly, man, you are full-blown over your head again. The only way through addiction is through connection with other people. And that's what makes addiction so evil, is there's so many barriers to keep you from having to connect, and it just loops on itself. And so, hey, Jordan, I want you to have that hard conversation with her. I want you to ask if you can join her and speak openly with her counselor on her behalf, on your behalf. And then I want you to call me back and let me know how that goes. And I'm happy to receive a call from her if she wants to call me. If she says I'm full of crap, tell her to give me a shout. Or if she's getting scared, tell her to give me a shout. And if you want to call me back, I'd love to talk to you too. Thank you for that call. These are hard times, man. If you've got somebody in your life that has struggled with addiction in the past, man, be smart and open and intelligent. And those are all 3 different things. Be smart and intelligent about having prescription medication in the house. Be really weary of benzos, man. Talk hard with your doctor and your psychiatrist. There was a season where they were just passing those suckers out like Tic Tacs, and they've reined them in the last couple of years just because they are so stinking addictive. But they're just passed out like bubblegums in certain pockets still. I stay away from those with every ounce of my being, and those are tough. Whew, man. Brother Jordan, my heart's out for you, man. All right, so I get this question a lot, and this is kind of a quick detour left turn, and then we'll get back to a call. I get this email a lot. This is just an example of one. This email comes from Marcus. He said, you recently, I think he's talking about the AMA article, AMA podcast, gave your thoughts on the importance of reading fiction, especially before bed. Why is that a good idea? All right, so here's the deal with reading fiction. I hear this a lot, especially in the science communities and the nerd communities. My buddies who are researchers, they constantly are saying, I don't have time to read fiction. I don't have time for that. I'm not going to read bedtime stories, dude. You know how many articles I need to be reading? There's so many great nonfiction books and science books and research things I can be reading. I don't have time to even read all of that. Here's the thing. If you talk to mental health professionals, folks who are not just, dude, I just got my degree and just have a warm candle and take some you time. If you talk to actual seasoned mental health researchers, to a person, if you say, hey, give me 10 books I need to read, a chunk of them are always fiction. Here's why. There's 2 big reasons why. And then I'll give you my personal reason why I don't read science at bedtime. Important reason number 1 is there's some psychological science, some neurological science about reading fiction and how it helps you get in the heart and head of another person, if you will, of a character, of what they're going through, of their body type, of their environment, of whatever character arc the author has set them on. And it teaches you empathy, and you get to practice this empathy and experience this empathy through the eyes of another character. Your different parts of your brain take on fiction, then they take on science literature, nonfiction. So you're actually exercising a different part of you, and it lights up in different places. And so think of reading fiction as a journey in empathy, as a character study, as a way to learn about people, and as a way just to get absorbed into a story, right? There's one study out of the University of Toronto that also talks about reading fiction increases creativity. You get to think about different options. Remember those old choose your own adventure books that for those of us who are old people that we had when we were kids, and you get to think through, I don't like that ending. I'm going to go to this ending and then go to that ending. You get to start seeing, here's the ripple effect, the domino effect of each decision in my life, and your brain takes it on. And so it's different than just learning a piece of science and applying. You get to see the world through somebody's eyes, experience it, experience the ramifications of their decisions, and your body and your mind begin to own those things. You get to turn off the analytical side, the quote unquote, I'm reading this because, and this sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Number one, you get to practice empathy, but number two, you get to turn off the why, off the, I've got to be productive with every second of my time because if I'm not growing, I'm dying. Stop, dude. Sometimes your body just needs to go, whew. Sometimes you just need to experience being in the eyes and hearts of another character. It relieves stress. If you haven't just sat and read through the Harry Potter books, if you haven't sat and read through the, the Hunger Games series, that's not super cheery, but they're excellent, right? If you haven't sat through and just read through good fiction after good fiction, those are both young adult fiction, which I love, give yourself permission to give it a shot. Give it a shot. And not like Kelly, who just picks up nonfiction about more murderers and serial killers and more death and destruction and evil and all that stuff. Hunger Games is kind of but it's just awesome. But find a series, just trust me, practice it and try it. And so one other thing that I live by is I don't read science at bedtime. When I get home from work, unless I'm in the middle of working on a book or a talk, I don't read science books in the evening. I don't read nonfiction in the evening. I read fiction. Even hard, weird fiction, wacky stuff I love. But I read it because it lets my brain unplug from the day. And so much of us are always cramming another podcast, you should listen to this podcast, but are trying to cram another podcast, another book, another science book, another this. And man, our bodies and our heads are like, dude, enough. Because then you got work on top of that and you got relationships on top. Enough. Give your heart and mind a break. Start to see the world through somebody else's eyes, another culture's eyes, another group's eyes. Experience the weight of their decisions, what happens, what you would have done differently. Live those things. Get lost in a good fiction book. Give it a shot. And if it was a waste of your time, then so be it. Kelly will actually buy the book back from you. You can just email her directly, and she'll Venmo you the money. She won't do that, but that was just funny to say. All right, let's take one more call. Let's go to Sandra in Chicago. Sandra, what's up?
Hi, Dr. Delony. Thanks for taking some time with me today.
Hey, thank you for calling. Is it Sandra or Sandra?
It's Sandra.
Sandra, yes. Okay. Often I miss. All right. So it's so good to talk to you. Is it freezing or regular there in Chicago?
It is. Well, it's regularly freezing. So we are a balmy 23 degrees today.
23?
Yeah. That was
the high. Wow. That's incredible. Good for you, Sandra. All right. So what's going on and how can I help?
I was hoping that you could help me with some grief tactics or methods, perhaps. So in 2018, my family had a pretty lousy year, starting, this will be bad for me. Hold on one second.
Hey, you're good. You're good.
So starting with my adult son's heroin overdose.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And then I lost my dad to advanced dementia in May. And then my younger brother in December died suddenly. Wow. But I struggle the most with the situation with my son.
Tell me about him.
Well, he's had a difficult life. So he, as a heroin addict, he would often make bad decisions and spent a lot of time in and out of jail. So my process, I feel like I've been grieving or maybe grieving incorrectly for 12, 15 years at least. So he, it's things like every holiday.
Yeah.
Even while he was alive, of course, it's like, well, he's in jail, so he's not experiencing this. So I just surround myself with guilt.
Yeah. And do you beat yourself up for who he was as a young boy and the situations that happened in his life, and
yes.
then the The missed dinners that turned into the missed holidays, that turned into the jail time, which turned into
Yep.
the ultimate price. So first and foremost, I'm heartbroken for you. People aren't supposed to have years like 2018. And I know that's probably insulting to you to hear all the people whining about 2020, myself included, right? And
No.
I know for you, you can think, you guys want me to tell you about a bad year, right? That's a lot. You lost what I would be willing to wager is the three of the most important men in your entire life, right?
Yep. No,
What did grieving look like with him? What did the funeral look like? What did the circumstances surrounding that look like?
Well, probably the start of a bad process, I would say. As you can imagine, I don't deal with these things very well based on this conversation. But
you're doing great.
Oh, thanks. Well, we did a private service with just the immediate family.
Yeah.
And I didn't want. First of all, I don't know friends. I mean, I don't know people. I didn't know people to contact and things like that for him. And then for us, our outside circle of friends and associates and things, I just couldn't do a day of standing.
It was hard you didn't want to answer questions and have to do the reception line and.
Yep, exactly. So it was just immediate family.
So Sandra, this is going to be easier said than done. But you've got to stop judging yourself. You've got to stop being ashamed of the person your son was.
Yeah.
Right? And I know every single mom, the moment they hold that little baby boy, they have, man, I've listened to my wife fast forward, in year one. I hope I like his wife. And I'm just like, what? Right? And I think we're going to have the wedding. And you're like, we got to slow the roll, right? I know that every mom holds that little baby and just a narrative unfolds, right? A story unfolds. And it is really hard when every morning you wake up. Here we are 2 years, 3 years later, and that story's not going to happen, right? It's not going to come true. The more you avoid putting a period at the end of that story, the more you continue to carry those bricks of, I failed as a mom, my son was a failure as a guy. As long as you hold that shame, that identity as a grieving mom, it's going to beat you up spiritually and psychologically. Your health is going to suffer from that. And I want you to know you're worth more than that.
Oh, thank you.
You don't believe that, but I'm telling you, and I want you just to get on YouTube or listen to this podcast over and over and just hit refresh on that. You are worth grieving this. You are worth holding your head high, and you are worth living the rest of the years that you've got left boldly and unapologetically and with the new spirit of meaning about it. Okay?
Thanks. Thank you for saying that.
No, you bet. And do all of us wish we could take things back as if from our kids' childhood? Yep. Right? And so those things that may have happened that you think through that pop into your head, here's what I want you to do. I want you to consciously, whether you've got to say out loud, and I have to do this to myself sometimes, when that thing, that conversation that you had when you were a kid, or that thing that happened when he was young and you wish you could have done it differently, or your husband said this one thing and I want you just to, if you have to, yell it, but just say, stop. Right? Say it out loud. Nope. Because at this point moving forward, I want you to consider those intrusive thoughts, those shameful moments, those, well, if you'd only thoughts. I want you to say no. I want you to listen to I want you to know those are now decisions from this point forward. And focusing on those won't help your son. Focusing on those won't help heal your heart. They're just going to keep you chained to the shame and chained to the past, right?
Yeah.
So you said something earlier that I really want to lean on, and I want you to listen to me closely, okay?
Okay.
There is no such thing as an incorrect way to grieve something other than not grieving it at all. And this is 3 years, 2.5 years. You're getting up, right? You're about a month and a half away, 2 months away. You're getting up on the 3rd anniversary, and those little anxiety bells are going to start ringing louder and louder. Remember, right? And then you're going to enter what I would probably assume is going to be a dark season when your body remembers 2018, right? One loss after another loss after another loss. There is not an incorrect way to grieve that other than to shove it down and act like it's not happening. Okay? Yeah. So here's a couple of things that I've walked alongside folks that they found helpful in the past, that I've found helpful in the past. Number one, you cannot under any circumstances, Sandra, grieve by yourself. Okay? So this is the time, and I know it's super annoying and hard with COVID, especially in the city like Chicago. You've got to find somebody, a small group, an individual, a counselor, somebody that you can say out loud, I'm not going to be ashamed of my son anymore. I'm going to choose to remember the great, good stuff about him. He probably had a sweet, sweet soul. I'm going to remember the joy and fun that we had when he was younger. I'm just not going to focus on the negative stuff because it doesn't do anybody any good. And I want you to experience that vulnerability and that shame letting. You've got to do that with somebody else. Okay? That's going to be vulnerable moment number 1 for you. Vulnerable moment number 2 is I want you to write him a letter that tells him about what in the crap's going on in 2021 and that you miss him like crazy. I want you to write him a second letter, possibly with this person, right? And I want you, maybe you read it to this person if you're super hardcore and vulnerable and tough. I want you to write him a second letter and tell him that you're heartbroken that he left you. Yeah. Okay? Because it's okay to be angry with him. It's okay to be frustrated with him. It's okay to be really, really pissed off at him. And then the third letter, I want you to write him and tell him who you're becoming. But I want you to write it as though you want him to know how proud of you he should be, because you're going to be the mom who now you're going to go take dance lessons once the lockdown is over, and you're going to learn Spanish, and you're going to start delivering Meals on Wheels. You are going to start living this shame-free, this unfettered life that's not going to be a forgetting of him, not going to be forgetting your dad, not going to be forgetting your brother, but it's going to be in celebration of. It's going to be meaning-making of. And when you get a group and you spend some hard minutes writing these letters to them, to your son, and they don't have to be all the same day, especially shouldn't be on the same day. When you do this, what's going to start to happen is you're going to start to smile. You're going to start to heal a little bit. You're going to have good days. You're going to have real bad days. And on the bad days, I want you to go, well, that's my body trying to take care of me again. I want you to smile at those days and then get back under the covers if you need to. And if you got to go to work, you got to get up, then that's when you're going to reach out to your buddies and to your friends, because you can't do this alone. And over time, you're going to begin to make meaning here. And what making meaning looks like is different for everybody. It may be you joining a group to go talk to young boys who are getting into drugs. It may be you writing letters to young addicts in jail and letting them know that, hey, their mama loves them and that you will be there when they get out. It may be that you're going to help knit and crochet. I don't know what you do. You may build machine guns there. I don't know what you do, but you're going to be making meaning for the rest of your life.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
But all of this is under one giant shell, which is this. You have to decide, I'm not going to wear the identity. I'm not going to consider myself a failed mom. I'm not going to consider myself somebody who's just grieving for the rest of their life. Is the ache of the loss of your son always going to be there? Dang right it is. He was your baby boy. But that's not going to define you. You're going to have to let that go, and letting that go is going to feel like you're letting him go.
Yeah.
Okay? And you are going to have to have a moment where you let him go. And that's when you get to live in those however few they are or however many they are. That's when you get to live in those joyful moments. So I wouldn't wish 2018 that you experience on anybody, even people I can't stand being around. That's heavy and hard. And I'm sorry you experienced that. If you want to be real brave, Sandra, when you get a chance, when you write one of those letters, I'd love for you to call it in and read it out on the show. I think that would be healing for millions of people who are experiencing disconnection from their kids, who are heartbroken over, children who've made choices that they don't agree with, that are locking them up, all those struggles. I think that'd be a beautiful, beautiful moment. That's hard, though. That's really hard. You don't have to do that, but man, it would be a blessing. Whew. Thank you so much for that call, Sandra. We love you and we care about you. Whew. All right, so we're going to end the show on a totally 180-degree positive note. I'm going to leave us out here with a smile on our face. Actually, it's kind of a depressing song, but I mean it in a positive way, okay? So I'm going to take us all back to my childhood. Small, little green puppet in love with a pig. The frog was doing everything he could to win this pig's affection. The pig said no. Pig said no. The pig said no. And the frog said, "It's not easy being green." And he wrote a little song, and it goes like this. It's not easy being green, having to spend each day the color of the leaves, when I think it could be nicer being red or yellow or gold or something much more colorful like that. It's not easy being green. It seems you blend in with so many other ordinary things, and people tend to pass you over because you're not standing out like flashy sparkles in the water or stars in the sky, right? But green's the color of spring, and green can be cool and friendly like, and green can be big like the ocean or important like a mountain or tall like a tree. When green is all there is to be, it could make you wonder why, but why wonder? Why wonder? I'm green and it'll do just fine. It's beautiful. And I think it's what I want to be. And I really want that pig to love me. This has been the Dr. John Delony Show.